Okay, hello, good morning, everyone. Right now, we have lots of participants attend the seminar at the moment, and today I would like to have Stuart Gomez from AquaSec. So he is enterprise technology sales, selling software to the largest and most complex corporation across Australia, and he's currently a regional sales manager at Aqua Security, who specializes in protecting enterprise digital transformation. In collaboration with his team, he helps enterprise communicate the increase in value and reductions of cost through using our technology to deliver successful business outcome. I am very excited to have him as an industry guest speaker today. So today he will talk about DevOps and security. Can they work together? Okay, all right. So I will stop sharing my screen and then I will over to you now. Yeah, hand over to
Thanks
you.
a lot.
Yeah.
Thank you. Morning, everyone. Let me just share my screen. Great. Nice to meet you all. I'm not sure how these sessions usually run, but feel free to put questions in the chat or ask them aloud. I also don't mind if you want to interrupt me, but if it gets too many, which I'm not sure if it will, but if it does, then I might pause you and just ask you to put it in the chat. But at the moment, feel free to make this as interactive as possible. But yeah, the purpose of today is for me to share a little bit more about, I guess, not really what we do here at Aqua Security, but to describe the problem that we're trying to solve, and that is trying to link DevOps and security together, which I think is applicable for this class, right? So just a bit more about me before we kick off. I did a commerce marketing degree, so not in this space at all. 20 or so years ago at University of New South Wales, I grew up in Sydney. That is my LinkedIn profile there. Feel free to connect with me, add me. I look forward to connecting with you offline as well. But yes, I grew up in Sydney. I played badminton competitively for Australia. National team was based in Melbourne, which is how I ended up in Melbourne, and basically decided to stay here. So I got my start in, I'll say, software sales. Would have been just over 15 years ago with a small company, a small startup called AppSense. They are now part of a larger company called Ivanti. So they play quite well in the Essential 8 space. But yes, this is my third software company that I've worked for, Aqua Security. And yeah, at the moment, I can really tell that the market is just beginning to get there and the opportunity is very significant. So let's get into it. So from an overall business point of view, right, when you're talking to board level people, right, those that make decisions for large companies, when you ask them what their key priorities are, interestingly, cybersecurity, information security is the number one priority for them, right? And in a way, there's no surprise of this. And this survey is probably even done before things like Optus and Medibank and Latitude occurred. But cybersecurity is still, that number one priority. And also relevant for us here, cloud platforms is also, very high when it comes from a technology priority point of view, right? Which I think is great for, everyone on this call who, are studying and learning and looking to be in this space, over the next few years. So that's the security aspect of it. When it comes to digital transformation and, cloud transformation and companies trying to digitize and use technology as their advantage, right? That's what digital transformation is all about. It was expected to reach $7 trillion this year, and I think we're in a way well on track for that. Which is once again a significant amount. And so, why am I talking about these two things, about security and digital transformation? Because that's where, in a way, cloud and cloud native security intersects, right? So, even a few more factors here, cloud native services, once again, these are big figures, right? And it's continually growing. And Kubernetes, once again, is a important factor when it comes to cloud and cloud native, just to show that how quickly things are growing, but also from an usage from an enterprise point of view. It's at that 70% mark, right now. Well, right now, it's 2 years ago now, which is probably even more today. And so that just goes to show the number of companies that are really adopting cloud and cloud native technologies, which once again is shown here. From a development point of view, it's already over that 51% as of a couple of years ago. And the expectation is that close to 100% of organizations will be using cloud native initiatives by 2025. Right. So from a cloud native, from a digital transformation point of view, it is absolutely the way that companies are trying to differentiate themselves, that they are trying to, be more competitive, one bank against another bank, what's really important to them. In a way, it's the user experience, it's the app, it's, when they log in online and they can view their money and get, AIs now applying, advice to them on, how they're spending, how they could be spending smarter. It's these things which are all dependent, once again, on cloud and cloud initiatives and cloud native, that's ensuring companies are becoming more competitive, which is why, majority of organizations are really investing in these areas significantly. However, that all being said, I think, no one here disagrees, with what I've said. But then why is it so hard? What is stopping companies from really adopting these technologies? And once again, another survey, security and compliance concerns, right? Another reason why we're all here and why this market is so important. That's absolutely the number one priority. And when we talk about security and compliance, I'm going to break that down into two aspects throughout this discussion. Security for me is being proactively stopping and blocking, attacks in real time, in the environment. So it's protecting, right? Compliance to me means visibility, complying with regulations, in a way, looking at a rear view mirror, which is still very important because, government, banking, finance, insurance, they are regulated by certain industries like an APRA or some other regulatory authority. It's really important that, those companies need to provide compliance reports, ensure that they know what's in their environment and report to it. However, reporting and compliance will never stop an attack. And therefore, you need to do both. You need to both be compliant and provide security. Okay, so, and I'll talk more about that throughout this session. Obviously, costs, the whole, I don't know if you guys have heard of the term FinOps, financial operations, but, the cost of cloud and cloud native is also, a concern for executives, complexity, no surprise there. But I'm going to stop at this fourth point, lack of skills and personnel. Once again, really important for you guys all on this call, that, this should really highlight to you that you are absolutely in the right place at the right time, learning skills that will be transferable into a large organization moving forward, with lots of opportunity. So moving over to the right of the screen, I'd like to think you've all heard of this, the shared responsibility model, both, AWS and Azure and GCP, etc., promote this, that, security of the cloud, that is their responsibility. But in the cloud is absolutely your responsibility or the organization's responsibility. And so that's where the focus is from a security and compliance point of view. Going to the bottom right, Gartner, the leading analyst when it comes to technology, they say 99% of the cloud security failures is the customer's fault, user error, lack of education. But, there are technologies and ways to help minimize this, but still, that is also, it continues to be the biggest gap, which is why I think, whenever you look online, or whenever I look online on LinkedIn, there is a lot of promotion about, being smarter, not just clicking on links, really thinking rather than just reacting when it comes to a text, a WhatsApp, an email that you receive. Okay. So like I said, there's this big intersection right now in the market when it comes to digital transformation and security. Okay. And here are a few figures when it comes to, I'll say specifically, the cybersecurity market. So you can see here that, endpoint security at one point was the biggest and the be all and end all. And, it's a very significant market and growing, right? Network security, even bigger, also growing. But the point I want to make here is that, even by 2026, which is earlier than the forecast for endpoint and network security, that it's expected to be much bigger than both network and endpoint security and growing at a faster rate, right? So if you're thinking about which area to move into in the near future, I'm going to encourage you to go into this cloud security market, okay? It's growing faster, means more competitive, more money, more opportunities, right? So what is cloud native? And, this is, well, I think it's pretty funny. But, do we think that it's just running your crappy software inside a container? And there you go, it's cloud native. Well, the answer is pretty much no. Yes, containerization and Kubernetes are a key part of cloud native, but let's get into a proper definition before we continue. So 4 main aspects is what we see, and a lot of this information has come from the Cloud Native Computing Foundation, the CNCF. So if you haven't heard of it, please Google that. They do lots of open source projects, which Aqua's glad to be part of a handful. If you've got time, you could probably even offer up some of your time and resource to being part of it, which would go extremely well on your resume. But yes, as part of the CNCF, Cloud Native Computing Foundation, this is the definition, right? It is cloud native. It's made to run in the cloud. It's not just public cloud, which some people think, but it's both public, private, and therefore hybrid, joining them both together. It focuses on having it's decoupled from infrastructure, which shows that it's not tightly coupled as loosely coupled. It's loosely coupled that you can continue to innovate and develop as much as you can without it impacting underlying infrastructure, which would cause delays in trying to get code out, basically is what that's saying, which is also a lot on that second point, loosely coupled microservices, not just monolithic type applications. And the focus is also that it can be orchestrated, it's scalable, it's resilient, not, an on-premise type of, monolithic application that takes a long time to make any changes. And one change, is going to impact lots of other things. That is, completely the opposite of what a cloud native application is. Okay. But yes, it's not easy, right? It's confusing and it's complex. And here's a bunch of acronyms, which I don't know how many you guys actually know. But, there's a bunch of AWS terms here, like, the Fargate, container as a service, the AWS Kubernetes. In my world, selling cloud security, like a few really are highlighted to me, like CSPM, Cloud Security Posture Management, CWPP, Cloud Workload Protection Platforms, the DevSecOps, and all these in a way combine to CNAP, which is Gartner's new term over the past 12 to 18 months, called Cloud Native Application Protection Platforms. But yeah, these are just a handful of acronyms, right? And this one over here, it's just pretty much one I made up because you know, you could pretend that it stands for it. So look, that one's not real, that highlighted yellow one, but the rest are, and the rest are extremely applicable to cloud native, and security, right? You need to continually keep learning to know what the analysts are talking about. Yeah, like even software supply chain, when it comes to software supply chain security, a very important term, especially with some of the attacks that have happened recently with SolarWinds. There's an executive order out in USA that the Joe Biden administration has come out with, specific to software supply chain security, right? And it hasn't come down to Australia yet, even though Minister Claire O'Neill is talking about the security more. But anyway, lots of terms. Keep up to date is an important factor. And I've realized I've got 3 things in the chat message, so let me see. Okay, the IMTUS, yes, I just made that up. How does functions as a service and serverless relate to this definition? And sorry, I think that would have been a slide before. Ah, got it. Yeah, in relation to the cloud native application. So I'll say that because, in a way, functions serverless are spinning up and down, in seconds or microseconds. They're not meant to. I think they time out at 15 minutes. That is, I'll say, it's a capability that helps with delivering a microservice environment, right? And look, I think I'll get to this as well as other workloads, later in the presentation. I think I'll get to that. Thank you. Continuing. So the purpose of, I guess, the abstract that I want to discuss primarily was that there are 2 main areas when it comes to cloud native security, and 2 main challenges. The first one being everything to do with the code and building an application. And the second one being deploying and running that application, right? So it's these 2, I'll say, items that are often disjointed when in an enterprise organization. They both have their unique challenges. And therefore, it's really important that you think of these and how you can solve this problem, and from our point of view, within a single platform. So when it came to that, I guess, question around functions and serverless, that is absolutely within that deploy and run category. You can run it on a virtual machine. It can be run on a container as a service, function, serverless, etc. But it very much links to the code and how that application is being built. And you guys would have seen this in the abstract. This is an interesting from a cultural point of view, but we do unfortunately hear and see this when we talk to many organizations. You think of a big bank, they might have, let's say, 10,000 engineers and developers. They might have 100 or so people in security. Often the ratio of people who develop code to security is like a ratio of 100 to 1, right? And so if there's no clear processes in place, if the people developing, the engineers, DevOps, etc., are not helping with security, it's just an unrelenting process for security and security operations and everyone under the security organization to try and fix what's going on. And it's, in a way, it's impossible. So when it comes to cloud security challenges, some of these are different to traditional on-premise security challenges or endpoint or networking challenges. Some are quite similar. So lifecycle visibility, seeing end-to-end from code, code, container image, infrastructure, and then that runtime piece. Seeing it end-to-end is a challenge. Cloud misconfigurations, obviously, errors by people when they're configuring their cloud environments. Cloud, that's part of that CSPM acronym. software supply chain attacks. And, often in industry right now, people think software supply chain is just related to code security, but that's incorrect. Software supply chain refers to, the code, the processes, the tools and the tool chains, to develop and create applications all the way to runtime. So there's really been a focus on this in industry over the past couple of years. Yeah, tooling issues, right? Lots of different tools. They often tools are for a point solution, which I'll get into in more detail, and they don't see the end-to-end picture, right? Once again, you've got cloud configurations, misconfigurations, you've got the same around code, known and unknown vulnerabilities. So the known vulnerabilities are things that you can scan, you can find, there's, public information about them. The unknowns, zero-day attacks as an example, especially in cloud when things are spun up and spun down so quickly. That's absolutely a challenge. Things like advanced malware, different sophisticated attacks. A lot of capabilities out there are focused on, like being able that you can see things through snapshots, or once again, point in time. Where sophisticated attacks, things like, in-memory attacks, things that occur, in split seconds. Once they get in, then they're able to, laterally move as well. So, besides technology advancing, so have the way, the bad actors from an attack point of view as well. So this is the definition of CNAPP, right? So you can see the cloud native application protection platforms, and this is what Gartner have termed, right? That optimal security of cloud native applications, requires an integrated approach from development, so that's that code side, all the way to runtime, right? And it needs to, like, looking at this definition backwards, and this is why I try to define the difference between security and compliance, is that Gartner is calling for a platform, from code development to runtime cloud, a platform that protects. So protects means stopping attacks, blocking attacks from occurring, not just providing visibility and compliance, right? Which is the easier thing to do, but being able to stop these sophisticated attacks in runtime. For an application that's cloud native, which we've previously defined, and having that complete lifecycle approach, right? That's the challenge right now. And so if you think about a normal organization, like this could be a big four bank that I've spoken to as an example. What's happened, I'll say, over the past 5 years is, starting on the left, the development engineering team of, say, 5 to 10,000. Each team often would have their own application scanning tool to do static testing, as an example, right? And if the organization was more mature, they would have centralized it on a specific application scanning tool that would be used for that purpose. Once again, maybe it's their requirement also to have an open source scanning capability, like to pick up software composition analysis, to really understand the ingredients and the lines of every code, to make sure that they're not breaking any licensing rules, but also from a security point of view as well, making sure that they can pick up all the vulnerabilities, malware, misconfigurations, and this is consistent, right, all the way end to end here. That you're looking for the same things, you're looking for the same security flaws, the same risks at each stage, right? But this team the devs have got its own requirements, and probably scanning a handful of times already. And often, a large bank that have done this, and because they need to from a compliance point of view, might be using 2 or 3 different tools, right here, and it might be even more tools used by different teams there. Then from a DevOps point of view, right, there's infrastructure code scanning. Once again, looking for the same things I called out before. Assuming that they use containerization, you need to then scan the container image once again to make sure that it's nice and secure, that you're not introducing, flaws, misconfigurations, malware into the environment. KSPM stands for Kubernetes Security Posture Management. So making sure that the Kubernetes security, the Kubernetes infrastructure is secure, that it's compliant. So that's from a DevOps point of view. Once again, using potentially a bunch of other tools and different tools used by a different team. Then you've got the cloud infrastructure requirements. Once again, cloud security posture management, right? Getting visibility and compliance across all your cloud accounts. Workload risk assessment, things like least privilege here, right? So once again, from a cloud infrastructure security point of view, they're going to use different tools. And then comes the runtime protection. And this is not just as simple as as an endpoint. Now in runtime, you've got things that were called out of the question before, like functions and serverless. You've got container as a service. You've got virtual machines. You've got so many different types of workloads. Each, some are more persistent than others, but some, like the functions, will spin up for seconds, literally. And how do you protect those? And once again, like I said, based on that Gartner definition, I'm not talking about just getting visibility, but being able to stop and block attacks in runtime. There's that network security and forensics, being able to, see what's happened after the fact to make sure that, it's improved within the organization. And so traditional, and I'll say right now, majority of organizations that I talk to, right, they would use large bank, 10 different tools, scan all these different times, numerous times. I've called out 4 teams here. There might be even more teams in large complex organizations. How are you really meant to get the outcome you want of having, I'll call it cloud native security, when it's as complex as this? When you're scanning all these different times, results aren't being correlated from one tool to another tool. You've got different teams and management with different priorities trying to communicate with each other. So when an attack does happen, let's say something does happen in runtime, how do you then link that back to right at the beginning and back to the developer? So this is the problem when it comes to cloud native security, okay? So putting that in this, I'll call it a 2x2. Sorry. So, it's basically saying here that consolidation is needed for better security and efficiency. But how do we consolidate all these terms, and I'll call it acronyms, which hopefully I've described, from one end to the other end, and that's the challenge. And so we're looking at it in this 2x2 as on this left area here. This is code and development area. On the right, it's the cloud space, right? And so from our point of view, the top is seeing the problem, and the bottom is stopping the problem. And these are, different acronyms and capabilities of being able to both see it up the top and stop it, from code on the left and cloud on the right. And to us, this is how we help visualize what Gartner is talking about. So development on the left, right? Like I mentioned, things that you need to do are things like software composition analysis, understanding the lines of code, static scanning, infrastructure as code scanning, right? It's focused on seeing the problem, scanning code, scanning infrastructure. But then, going down the bottom, things like CI integration, the actual compliance gates to stop, a developer from introducing malware at a specific gate, because you shouldn't absolutely not have malware, But once again, the challenge there is developers have their goal is to get code out and get code out quickly. So making sure that whatever we do from a security point of view on that development side helps, enhance their productivity while being secure. And then over on the right at the top, Kubernetes security posture management, cloud security posture management, once again, visibility and compliance. CWPP is absolutely focused on workload protection, right? That's part of that definition to be able to stop and block attacks. So once again, at the top, being able to see what's going on, visualize it, report to it, ensure that you're compliant. But at the bottom, that once you see it, you don't just be like, okay, let's hand it over to the security operations team and hope that they can fix it. But having capability to then stop it in its track with the same tool and the same capability. And if you've got, once again, 10 or 15 tools within your organization, it's not going to work. You need, ideally a single platform that goes end to end with this. So that's where I'm, in a way, pausing with my description of the problem. At Aqua, we've got and in the space, the CNAP space, we've got a platform that goes end to end. And that's who I work for, and that's what I do. It's basically educating customers that there's a better way to do security. Yeah, I won't say that it's easy. Trying to change any process within an organization isn't simple. An organization is not just going to buy a tool, even if we say that we can solve all the problems. And in a way, we think that we can, help them, stop and block attacks. But, how does what we do or other tools integrate with the current process? What processes need to be changed? When we work with executives, it's about how we can help them improve, I guess, the security posture and ensure that, they're not in the media like some of their other colleagues and competitors would be. I'm going to tangent into a few other areas which I think is important for students based on my experience. But do we have any questions or other questions that I haven't answered properly? I'll probably take some time to answer them now.
Any questions from the student? I think looks good so far.
Yeah, cool. No, perfect. Yeah, look, and so hopefully this gives you a flavor of, once again, how digital transformation, how cloud transformations, how important they are right now to industry, why they're doing it. And then obviously the next thing is, from our point of view, is how do we secure that? And it being different to traditional ways of security. So hopefully that's been helpful for you. So I've probably got about 5 more slides, which will hopefully advise you on what else you can do to get out there and be more successful, I'll say, students, and hopefully transition you more easily into the workforce, because I think that's the thing on the top of your mind. So I've kind of mentioned this a few times during this discussion, but you really should be trying to connect with industry. So over in that top right, the Linux Foundation, they're the ones that have got different, I'll say, subsidiaries or foundations, I don't know what you call it, but the CNCF, Cloud Native Computing Foundation, is part of them. Go and look them up, see what projects are there, see if you can help and participate. But I think that would be a really cool thing to do, and it would look good on your resume. At the top left is AWSN. So once again, got nothing to do with AWS, even though that can be quite confusing. But yeah, it's not, it's tasked to help, and I don't know if there are many females on this call, but it's a group that are tasked to help females, do well in this industry. And it's a very supportive organization. In a way, it's actually not for females only. Like, I do attend their lunches, and I do help, in a way, mentor and encourage, people, females, to in different aspects. So I don't know, like, I've joined because as a mentor. I'm not sure if males can join, but yeah, if you're female and you're on this call, absolutely join that. They do networking lunches every couple of months in the city. They've got other events where I think the CISO of Rapid7 is speaking at a breakfast in Melbourne and Sydney in the next couple of weeks, which basically you just pay for your meal, and you can join these events, network with other females who are, some are studying, but then there are also some in leadership positions that they could really help and advise you. So over that bottom left, I'd like to think everyone knows who AISAR, Australian Industry of Security. I actually don't even know what they stand for, but basically they're the largest security body in Australia, right? And they've got their conference coming up this week at the Convention and Exhibition Centre. So starting tomorrow, it's 3 days. It's a massive event. I think and once again, membership for these organizations, I know for an industry professional like me, it's absolutely paid for, and which, my company will pay for it. And going to the event is also another ticket. But as students, please check it out yourself. I think there are student memberships which would be very low cost or free. And once again, these conferences for you would be very low cost or free. Once again, I don't know what your study schedule is like, but if you can get to these events, or even check out the agenda, it would be, like I said, it's the largest body in Australia, security body in Australia. SANS, once again, an industry standard. These are definitely more paid for. But as a student, go and check it out. There's lots of, just Google it, research it, join and participate, is what I'm encouraging you to do. Obviously you're going to get your degree certification when it comes to tertiary education, but I also encourage you to consider industry type certifications, whether it's an AWS security, or start with the cloud practitioner. Once again, Microsoft have cloud Azure basics as well. But yeah, AWS is absolutely number one when it comes to industry recognition. Microsoft number two. But if you've got more of a security focus, or you've got an idea of where you want to specialize, consider some of the other vendors, whether it's IBM, Palo Alto, Checkpoint, Cisco, etc. These help. I think it helps with your learning, really. I'm not going to say that this will help you land a job, but I think there's, some figures out there that say if you've got an AWS certificate, it gives you a 70% or so advantage. I'm not sure about that, but it will help your confidence and understand, a lot of those acronyms that are brought up if you're focusing more on AWS or Azure, and get you understanding it from a cloud point of view, not just a cybersecurity point of view. I've mentioned it throughout the talk today. Keep in touch with what's going on in the news. This executive order is now a couple of years old, but like us in Australia, I guess I'm going on to the next slide. Things that have happened with Latitude Financial, with Medibank, with Optus, are absolutely key to what's going on now in government with Minister Claire O'Neill, and everything that she's doing. There's also that, there is physical war going on in the likes of Russia, Ukraine, and obviously Israel. But I won't say the real war, but there's a, even bigger war, which is global when it comes to cybersecurity. And we on this side, I'll say that we're the good guys. We're trying to protect organizations. And so, but understanding what's going on from a legal point of view, and I see most of you are going to try and find work in Australia, from the Australian regulation and government point of view, is absolutely key, because the banks, finance, government, critical infrastructure, they all need to adhere to different policies and procedures. So keep an ear out for that as well. Like I said, know your legislation. Some of these links here, I don't know if you've heard of the Information Security Manual. It's very extensive. The ACSC Essential 8. So things, they say that, I think maybe I'm a bit outdated on this, but if you do these Essential 8 things, you're going to minimize attacks by, I don't know what the figure is, 85%, 90%. Things like allow listing, things like privilege access, are all really important. I call out a couple of other things here when it comes to critical infrastructure and PCI, etc. But yes, really know your legislation, keep up to date, know what's going on with the government. It's all really important. Follow the analysts. I've called out Gartner quite a few times. Like I said, they're the biggest when it comes to technology and technology trends, over in that bottom right. But there are others like these, Gigom. I've never heard of them until I started with Aqua, even though I've been, like I said, I've been in industry 15 years. They specialize in cloud native security. IDC is also probably about top 5 when it comes to technology analyst. Forrester, once again, top 5, follow them. And then this is from the 451 research group, also top 5. But out of all these, I'll say that Gartner is number 1. So, follow them, try and see if you can, go to any of their webinars and that kind of thing, from that point of view. And lastly, I think it goes without saying, experience goes a long way. So like I suggested, if you can get experience with, the CNCF or the Linux Foundation, great. But, if you're part of a community or church or sport, get involved in a project, help them, I don't know if any of you code, but help them with their website, help them with, security, put it on your resume. These are all extracurricular things, but and I'm sure you're very busy with uni and enjoying uni life as well. But this will help you get that next step when it comes to your job and job experience. Yeah, don't be afraid to use your connections, whether you've got relatives, friends or their parents. See however you can get experience, get experience. This is, I think, getting more and more important. And there's lots of highly qualified people out there, and some struggle with jobs. I encourage you that experience will be a key differentiator. And looking at the question, what's your opinion on the cloud regulations across the different countries? Example, deploy system on other countries' cloud, which regulations should we comply with? Is there a rule of thumb? I think so with, me primarily selling to Australia, but once again, GDPR is, I'll say, even though it's meant to be Europe-based when it comes to personal identifiable information, it's absolutely one that, everyone in Australia talks about as well. So that would be one that's key. And the other ones are like, I feel like that's the most applicable to everything, to what, Aqua does. But yes, some of the executive orders coming down in America, like I think people in Australia are paying attention, but they're not yet, key for us down here. So I'd say GDPR would be the number one, from that point of view. Oops, sorry. Oh, well, it's going to be my last point anyway. But the last point is LinkedIn. If you don't have LinkedIn, get on LinkedIn, create a profile, make it nice and neat, and put your experience there. I'll say very important. Start connecting with people, connect with me, connect with industry, as I'm encouraging you to go and talk to people or join AISA, join the Australian Women's Security Network, assuming you're female. Connect with people there. Having connections on LinkedIn helps you identify, what jobs are out there. If you've got someone at the AISA security event that you've met, they're on LinkedIn, they're working at a company. If there's an entry-level position, obviously apply, but then at least you've got someone to talk to and refer back to there and can help you. So people still, very much work with people, in a way, buy from people. Even if some of you are introverts out there, you need to go and get out there and connect with people. And that's all from me.
Thank you so much. I have a question. So I think AquaSec is a security company, and you have lots of products as well. Would you mind providing what is the landscape of the products in your company? Like mainly you provide a consultation, or you have like a detection tools or whatever. And if you can do some demo, how does it work? That would be great as well. Yeah.
Okay, I can't demo. So just a bit more about a software company. So I lead sales for a region. I've got someone else to do my demos and I'll say technical presentations because we specialize in different areas. But I'll say going back to, sorry, my PowerPoint seems to have frozen. Sorry, just give me a second. Let me stop sharing and then I'll share again. I don't know why. Sorry.
And for the audience, if you have any other questions, please feel free to type in the Zoom chat or raise your hand as well. Yeah.
I can talk to it. From our solution point of view, yes, we have capabilities that secure from code, containerization, Kubernetes, all the way to the cloud. It'd be easier if I can bring it up. So let me try one more time.
Okay, no worries, no worries. Yeah.
What is it? Yeah, I'll bring up a different PowerPoint. And how familiar are, I guess, people here with vendors? I'm just curious.
Vendors?
Like you probably haven't heard of Aqua, but have you heard of other vendors like obviously Palo Alto, or have you heard of Wiz or Orca, or no? No. No. Okay. So just
basically in the unit, right? So we talk about static analysis tools. The student have a chance to experience with the development part. This is a software quality and testing unit we do.
Okay.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Okay. So you can see this. So yes, Aqua, when it comes to cloud native application protection platform, we do all this, right? That's why this is our slide, right? And so when it comes to, I asked you about competition because when we talk, you mentioned static scanning, etc., code scanning, we see some of our competitors, and I'll call them out, like Sneak or Checkmarks.
Yeah. That one.
They fit in this. See it, development. They don't do so much when it comes to stopping and compliance gates, right? So we do all this. That's an example. Where industry is going as well is there's lots of these tools, cloud security posture management, and it kind of extends to infrastructure as code scanning. So if you look up Wiz, W-I-Z, or Orca, O-R-C-A, like Wiz is considered to be the fastest growing cybersecurity company ever. In 3 years, it's gone from 0 to a $10 billion evaluation. And that's why I kept referring to the point that all they do is see the problem, focus on compliance, which once again, they've done well because this is where the industry is right now. But they don't stop and block attacks, which is this bottom right corner here, which is Aqua's strength. So when we talk about competition, like yes, Sneak, Checkmarks, JFrog, SonarQube are in this top left. Wiz, Orca, Laceworks are in this top right. In this bottom right, our best competition would be Palo Alto's Prisma. They've acquired competition, but basically, Prisma is, in a way, the competition that's in lots of organizations right now because they've been around the longest. However, they've acquired many companies and they haven't integrated into a single platform, which is why they're struggling, right? So yes, Aqua has end-to-end. And when we talk to an organization like a big bank, we'll tell them that like we need to find a way in. And it might be this workload protection place, for serverless, which is, or container as a service, which is our strength. And once we're in, that's when we can start expanding to talk about the other things that we do, and help customers reduce costs by getting rid of tools, but also give them a better outcome.
Okay, I see. I got it. And in terms of the CI integration, does it mean
Yep.
that you have like your own CI server products, or like
Yep.
we need to integrate your product into, let's say, GitLab CI CD, or
No. So and this is once again important. Whenever we talk to customers, they say we don't want another dashboard, we don't want another tool. When it comes to code, so we and the best tools out there will integrate with GitHub, Bitbucket, GitLab, etc. And it's actually like a snippet that's entered right into the developer process within Bitbucket or GitHub to show the misconfiguration. And then depending on the policies, which is this bit down here, and the compliance gates, it can be just, here you go, do with it what you want. You can continue developing knowing that this is, or as they mature, it's, you need to fix this before you can continue building the application.
Okay.
Yeah.
I see. That's really cool. Yeah. It would be great if we can see like a demo of this as well. Yeah, to see how does it work. Yeah.
Sure. I can, if we need a follow-up, I'm happy to get be my colleague leading it, but he's more than happy to show you everything I've spoken about today when it comes to our capabilities.
I see. Okay. All right. Yeah. Any other questions from the audience? Anything else? Looks like no. Okay. Thank you so much. So maybe I will wrap up the seminar today. Yeah, thank you so much,
Yes.
Stuart. Yeah, we learned a lot from you today, and yeah, we will have a follow-up discussion later. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Clara. Thanks, everyone. See
You.
you later.
Bye bye. Bye bye.